Russell, I think you should go and do it. And I know that you don't trust the system, Dan, and I have little faith in it either. But if we really are saying that we have no faith, we have no faith in the justice of this country at all, then we have no country left. It's over.
Breaking right now, Tucker Carlson, the brave, bold, independent media hero, has called on Donald Trump to issue political asylum to Russell Brand, who he believes is under attack from lawfare in the United Kingdom. Let me take you through his argument. Tucker posted, Russell Brand was once a famous left-wing actor celebrated by the British establishment. Then he criticised the government for using COVID to turn the UK into a totalitarian state. The accolades abruptly stopped. A government TV station accused Brand of committing sex crimes against anonymous women they refused to name. Government officials called for his opinions to be scrubbed from the internet. Last month, British prosecutors charged Brand with rape and sexual assault. None of the charges are backed by hard evidence. All of them supposedly took place more than 20 years ago, one of them in the 1990s. The entire case is transparently politically absurd, a near identical replay of the fake rape charges authorities brought against Julian Assange 15 years ago. Russell Brand, whose youngest child is barely a year old, now faces life in prison. He has no shot at a fair trial because Britain is no longer a free country. Over the last few years, millions of foreigners have applied for asylum in the United States. Russell Brand deserves it. Say a prayer that the Trump administration comes to his rescue. Let me bring in my superstar panel now. Bernie Spofforth is the host of the groundbreaking YouTube channel, If This Is True. And Anne McElhinney is of Unreported Story Society, the producer of a new filmed verbatim drama based on the landmark case of Mermaids versus the LGB Alliance and why supporters of transitioning children are on the back foot, but they're not gone yet. And we will be talking about Trans on Trial very shortly. But Anne, what do you make of the suggestion that Donald Trump should offer asylum to Russell Brand, who is facing these rape charges in the United Kingdom? I should say, Anne, because we don't have any type of free speech here, we don't have any type of First Amendment, I can't go into talking about the details of the case in any way. But let's just talk about it as a hypothetical. Russell Brand, does he deserve political asylum? Is this something that the US administration under Trump could do to continue to put pressure on the Starmer administration over free speech?
It's tricky. And by the way, don't forget. I mean, as you mentioned, I was in court every day of the Harvey Weinstein trial in New York, and so that's my insight into this. I don't know anything about the Russell Brand case, so I can't really speak to any kind of details there. But I don't like the smell of what you just said, by the way, and the fact that there's no details available. But I wouldn't say that America is the safest place for somebody who the mob are after. Look what happened to Harvey Weinstein. The Me Too movement went after him. I was in court every day, and 2 women put him in prison for the rest of his life. Now, obviously, there's an appeal process going on right now. But I cannot tell you how ludicrous, and I can say this, how ludicrous it is that Harvey Weinstein is spending 1 day in prison, by the way, and he is scum. I wouldn't want anyone I love or care about to have anything to do with him, but he didn't rape anyone. He didn't assault anyone. And I was there in court every day, and I can tell you that I was very, very shocked by what happened. So I'm not sure that Russell Brand,
by the way, because this has become quite a political hot potato in recent months, given Candace Owens has expressed her support for Harvey Weinstein. Now, I am completely with the pair of you, by the way. Harvey Weinstein is a pig. I met him in my former life. He treated me like a piece of dirt. He's not the type of guy that you want to say a good thing about. But you sat in trial every day. Candace Owens has looked at this case in depth. And you both say, revolting pig of a man, but he's not guilty. He's just not guilty.
Well, here's what I always say to people, because people are really shocked by this. Here's what I say to people. Imagine if you got assaulted or raped, would you, in the case of one of the women, would you come downstairs from the hotel room where this happened and ask the guy who had flown you in, a different guy, a friend, had flown you into New York, would you say to the friend, I need to change my ticket because I want to stay in New York because Harvey has his birthday coming up? Would you do that? Would you write hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails to this rapist saying, you're just great. Yesterday was fabulous. By the way, can I get a membership to the Soho House? Oh, could I go to that premiere, by the way, in Cannes? Oh, by the way, you know what? You mean more to me than my father. Would you have consensual sex with that rapist, sexual assaulter for many, many, many times after this alleged assault? Would you write, in the case of one of them, would you write to his office and say, can you fly me to London, by the way? Please, could you fly me to London? Get to London. This is after the rape. Get to London and then say, to get in touch with Harvey Weinstein's office and say to them, oh, I've just worked out that Harvey's going to be in London. Can you change my tickets that I'm here when he's here? Does any of that sound even slightly reasonable? Would you write to your rapist, by the way, my absolute favorite is, would you write to your rapist and say, I'd really like you to meet my mother?
It's nuts.
That makes sense. Does any of that make sense? Every last email
people will not believe you. People will not believe you. This is the shocking thing, because the mainstream media, just like with Russell Brand, decided Harvey Weinstein has to fall.
Guilty. Yeah.
He's our fall guy. We'll make him our fall guy. We've seen this time and time again, by the way, including with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell. And the problem is, if you speak up for these people, which I will, and I know you will, people try and say that you are defending the indefensible. No, what we're doing is pointing out that there can be bad people who are still set up by the establishment, the deep state, and the mainstream media. Now, Bernie, can I ask you about the Russell Brand case? Because there are so many parallels, aren't there? And again, let's talk about it generally, Bernie, but come on. It's virtually impossible to see how the guy gets a fair trial in the US. What do you make of Tucker Carlson calling on Donald Trump to provide him with political asylum in the US?
So I find this really tricky, because I'm a huge believer in democracy and in the right to a trial of your peers. Right, I'm a big fan of that. And if I have to sit here and
by the way, Brand says he wants to face a jury. Right. I should just point that out. He says, I'm innocent and I want to go on trial so that I can prove my innocence. Sorry, Bernie, I just thought that was worth saying.
Okay, so when this all first came up, I said the same thing, and I said it on X. I said a trial by media and a trial by jury is not trial, right? It isn't, and it's wrong, and I don't believe you should do that. I absolutely support Russell Brand if he's going to go to court, because we've just been talking about grooming gangs. We've just been talking about young girls who were not heard and were not listened to. We can't choose what young girls we listen to, right? It happened in the 90s. The grooming gangs happened in the 90s. We don't know what girls are telling the truth. We don't know which ones are digging for some gold jewelry. We just don't know. So we have to trust. We have to trust that our legal system will work. If we don't, if our legal system doesn't work, then we have nothing, and this country is over.
But Bernie, I don't trust him anymore. I don't trust him anymore.
I understand that.
I don't, and I've had lawfare against me.
I understand that. I understand that, but Russell is right. But Russell, I believe that Russell is right. However, what I would say is, if Donald Trump wants to give asylum to Tommy Robinson, he should. He should now give asylum to Tommy Robinson, because he's had his trial. It was a civil case. He's now a political prisoner being treated unbelievably badly. He should leave the country. But Russell, I think he should go and do it. And I know that you don't trust the system, Dan, and I have little faith in it either. But if we really are saying that we have no faith in the justice of this country at all, then we have no country left. It's over.
Can I just say that? Can I just mention that I was I was also in court. Just maybe this will reassure you slightly. I was in court also every day in London for Kevin Spacey's trial.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I have to say that jury were absolutely fabulous. But what Kevin Spacey was very, very lucky. So Kevin Spacey, and we've also got a podcast, a very long podcast on the Kevin Spacey trial unfiltered. I highly recommend it. It's unbelievable. What was really interesting about Kevin Spacey was Kevin Spacey is a hoarder. He keeps everything. And because of that, he was able to defend himself. Because the big problem is, how do you defend yourself about something that happened 20 years ago? Do you know where you were? Like, where were you on January the 3rd, 1995? Like, no one has any idea. And by the way, a lot of this would be before the internet, if you're talking about the 90s. So there's no record of anything. So people say stuff. And it's like, how can you ever work out, were you there, whatever? But I have to say, in the Kevin Spacey case, and I don't know if all of the listeners would know this, but it's really just incredible. Kevin Spacey's life, basically his career is over. He's finished. He has been exonerated in every court that he has turned up at.
Yeah.
Every last time. And in London, it was spectacular. And we stood there. I stood right beside him, like looking at him. And he was in the, with the police surrounding him, in the dock. And they were like, and there was, I think in the end, like something like 11 counts. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And he was crying. I mean, it was extraordinary. And in that case, obviously, we all came outside and he was obviously thanking, and he went around and was allowed, they gave him the ability to go in and talk to the jurors afterwards and thank them. But they were like, I looked at them and I thought, now this is exactly what, what you're talking about. This is the beautiful system when it works beautifully. But I also should mention that I was in every day of the court case of Mark Stein in Washington, D.C., where something very different happened and where it was very, very political. And the result was ludicrous and didn't represent what the evidence that had been presented was. So this is a massive problem. And that's why calling out, like, this is why what we did with Weinstein, because sometimes I'm thinking people, I'm conservative and people are like, why would you spend all this money, in exposing this Harvey Weinstein thing? And the reason is because today it's Harvey Weinstein and tomorrow it's your son. Tomorrow it's your brother. Tomorrow it's your sister, who's going to be in the dock. So we all have to defend Weinstein against what happened to him because it's so wrong. And I wanted to mention just one thing about the Weinstein thing, because you were talking about the mainstream media, and it's an image I have in my head, and it's so disturbing. In the Weinstein case in New York, we got up every morning at 3:00 to line up outside in the freezing cold because there was a huge, huge media interest. Anyway, we get into the court and everyone had their laptops. So there'd be this noise. This it's a kind of a little noise, right? Of all the laptops going crazy, right? While the prosecution were questioning witnesses. Then the defense would come up to speak to the same witnesses and make a zinger, like an unbelievable point. And this is what happened. All the hands were taken away. All the hands were lifted. The noise stopped. You suddenly heard complete silence and you're thinking, oh my God, this is so scary. So the people outside didn't know, didn't get to hear these incredible pieces of evidence, these unbelievable pieces of evidence. They didn't get to hear them. And that's very, very disturbing.
But first, we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance. Some can even be harmful to your skin. Recently, Dr. Lake has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? Well, so that he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like Photoshop for your face. You may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to visibly erase your wrinkles from view, Lake told reporters. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lake has released a step-by-step video to the public. It is free, it is uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. And he says if this helps even one person look younger or feel more confident, he will be thrilled knowing he helped. The video has since gone viral. At first, it was shared by users on Facebook, but since then, it's racked up over 2.3 million views and counting. So far, the comments and feedback have been outstanding, with thousands of women reporting they look decades younger. One viewer even commented, "Best results of anything I've used. I can't believe how well this works. I'll never stop using this. I don't understand how it works, but the results are great. Thank you." So you can find out much more about this yourself right now. Go to bhmd1.com/outspoken or just click on the link in the description box below. Let me repeat the address though, bhmd1.com/outspoken. Now there is one thing Dr. Lake asks from his viewers. If watching this video helps you look and feel younger than you have in years, then please share this video with your friends and loved ones. Together, we have the power to help as many women reclaim a youthful look as possible. So go watch the video at bhmd1.com/outspoken right now, or just click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show. You're completely right, Anne. I mean, I was just in court at the High Court the other day for Tommy Robinson's latest trial, and it was exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. And if I hadn't been there, then there was a lot that simply would not have been reported from that case. And when it comes to Kevin Spacey, by the way, what shocks me so much is that even when he had been found not guilty in these two trials on both sides of the Atlantic, the mainstream media still wasn't finished. And actually, I do point people to my right of reply interview with Kevin Spacey. This was the first time he had actually spoken publicly. He did so after Channel 4 came for him with a host of new allegations. And what is amazing in this interview, and I mean, we went on for, I think, about 1 hour, 38 minutes, and you're so right, Anne. He was just able to point by point by point take it all down. And this is why some people will be saying, why are you talking about this? Why are you defending this people? And your point is so right, Anne. This could be your son. We have to stop lawfare against famous people just because they're either considered undesirable from a maybe aesthetic point of view, if you're talking about Harvey Weinstein. Maybe from a political point of view, if you're talking about Russell Brand and the transition of Russell Brand, but that doesn't matter. We cannot have this type of media, mainstream media-driven justice. It doesn't work. But Anne, I want to talk about the brilliant work that you do with your Unreported Society, and specifically Trans on Trial, which is your new piece of work. Now, before you explain, this is the incredible case, by the way, the incredible case between the LGB Alliance and Mermaids. We've got just a little bit of it, and this was the moment in court when J.K. Rowling was raised.
Anti-trans, transphobic bigots, again, it's a misrepresentation. And I can only explain it by saying people didn't want to engage in the ideas that we're putting forward, so they called us names instead. And you may have seen lots and lots and lots of people are constantly called transphobic, transphobe, bigot. It often happens on social media. We only have to look at J.K. Rowling and the torrent of abuse she received for expressing ideas that are similar to ours.
So there it is, Anne, Trans on Trial, and the Unreported Story Society has documented this landmark case. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, and as you say, it was a landmark case. I mean, and what's really interesting about the trans fight in the UK versus the trans fight, for example, in the US, it's very, very interesting. The fight was led by progressive lesbians in the UK, and they have been very, very successful. And really, at the heart of it, I think, you know, when I say heart, actually, I mean really at the heart of it, at the cutting edge, at the poignant end of this, is lesbians looking back, and these are older lesbians, you know, who are very successful, have lived fabulous lives, you know, and you know, navigated all kinds of things. For them to look back and realize that if they were, you know, young and growing up now, and they were in schools, feeling awkward, feeling a little bit, you know, same-sex attraction, you know, whatever, but being confused and not sure, they said for sure. And actually, there's an amazing speech at the very end of the play with Kate Harris, and it's like, and she starts crying, and she talks about basically transing away the gay, you know, where the now what teachers would do is, you know what, it's not, you're not gay, it's not that. Actually, what you are is you were born in the wrong body. And Kate Harris very emotionally talks about, there is no doubt, she said, I would have been put on hormones, on puberty blockers, and on a very, very fast track down into surgery and into a destroyed life. And instead of that, she's a happy lesbian. She is living a lovely life and has had a lovely relationship, and, you know, and all of that. And so what they're doing is they're protecting children from this extraordinary evil. And what's really, I mean, it's bizarre. One of the problems with the trans thing, again, a little bit like the grooming gangs, is it's so disturbing, people want to run away from it. And in some ways, this is, I think, one of the benefits of the play, is that it's a great entryway into the whole argument. And it's because it's kind of funny. And the reason it's funny, and it's totally verbatim from what was said at this court case, where the Mermaids were suing, by the way, basically going to the Charities Commission, wanting LGB Alliance to lose their charitable status because of the fact that they were critical, very critical of the trans movement. And what you have here is, it's so important, is to, like almost for the first time, having those people who think it's okay to trans children, having them kind of explain it, you know, ask difficult questions under oath and asked to explain themselves. And they come across as insane, as lunatic, as ludicrous. And it's really, really funny. It's like a pantomime, because they're contorting themselves with language, because there's no way that you can't make, there's no language that fits this insanity. And so it's a massive exposure, and it wasn't what they expected. It wasn't what Mermaids expected, but it's exactly what they got. And of course, LGB Alliance had a resounding victory, which I think telegraphed what then has just happened in the Supreme Court. So
well, of course.
It was incredibly important, and these women are really, really fabulous.
No, they are. And Bernie, this was the problem. There was this overreach for such a long time. And actually, what a lot of folk don't realize is that the trans movement at its core is actually so homophobic, because Anne says what you're actually doing is telling young lesbian women, oh, you must be a man, or young gay boys, oh, you must be a girl, and putting them through hell as a result.
And that's exactly what happens with extremism, because in the middle, somewhere lost in all of this, you have lots of young people. Perhaps, you know, I personally know a couple of very young people who have decided they are trans, and you know, they have varying backgrounds, but the common background is that they were bullied, didn't fit in very well. So they didn't want to play football with the boys because they were a bit bullied. Maybe they'll end up as gay. I don't know. That's their choice in the end. So they hung out with the girls, and then trans became the fashionable thing to do, or the safer thing to do. And the problem with that is you can give children and young people lots of time to grow up and develop on their own. But this pervasive bullying has come downstream from people who are extreme in you know, you've got the camp of men who are fetishists. And yes, I have been on Protect the Dolls and had a look. It's literally terrifying. I am frightened of these people. And then you have the trans people who've lived their lives for many, many years. They don't want any of this nonsense. They've never been a problem in society, who their names are completely muddied, their histories, their stories, their whole reality is completely muddied by these activists and this pervasive bullying from, as you say, people who could actually just be extremely homophobic. It's awful. It's awful. And I feel really sorry for so many of those young people. And it's despicable to put them on a medical pathway in any case at all. It should never happen. And I'm worried as well about the therapy that they're being given. I don't know if you've seen, Anne, but I've been reading a few cases where children young teenagers have been taken to therapists who just affirm the fact that they are a different sex. Why would you do that?
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I mean, it's very dark. The whole thing is very dark. But anyone who's very interested in this issue, and we haven't got time definitely on this show to do this, look up who John Money was, Dr. John Money, who started this whole thing. His story, the story of what he did to those little twins, those Canadian boys, is so horrific. Both of the boys are dead now. It is absolutely horrific. But guess what? And I literally have just interviewed somebody about this issue the other day. Dr. John Money is not disgraced in the medical profession. In fact, he's lauded. He's continually and he sexually abused those boys for all of the years that they would go there. The whole story is just nightmarish. Look it up. It's available online. But I mean, it's just horrific. And what they're doing, as you say, what's really awful is in schools there are these curricula. I mean, this is something I would love to get to the very heart of. There's these curricula that are being created by these outside groups like Mermaids, by the way. In Ireland, there's a group called Tenny. These groups are everywhere. Here in America, it's Planned Parenthood. Create these curricula, which are then disseminated through the public school system, and teach absolute lies to children. That there's 48 or 78, I don't know what the number is now, of genders, that you're not, that your sex is not immutable. This it's complete madness, and it's taught in schools. And you're sending children out into a school system where you're meant to respect the teacher, but the teacher now is teaching absolute insanity. And parents have got to get very involved. Parents have got to find out what's being taught. But
they can't in this country.
Go nuts.
Yeah. They can't in this country. And don't forget, most of those educational briefings now are coming from the UN. And those outside third-party suppliers of education are actually consulting to the UN. So this is a global issue, and we're pushing this pervasive nonsense in many cases through countries all over the world. I mean, how do you possibly keep control of a class where 5 or 6 of the little girls have decided they're cats?
I know, indeed.
How do you do that?
You can't. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah. Oh, look, such a pleasure to have both of you today. But Trans on Trial, the filmed verbatim play, it's absolutely fascinating. It is a historic document, but also quite entertaining for all of the reasons that Anne discusses. Can be watched at www.transontrial.com. And it is, of course, a project of the Unreported Story Society. So Anne McElhinney, please come back. It's been so brilliant to have you on Outspoken for the first time today. And Bernie Spofforth, who is behind the groundbreaking YouTube channel, If This Is True. You can subscribe to If This Is True on YouTube for so much more of this. Love having you both. Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.